Recently, I went a whole month without any caffeine whatsoever, and if you've been following me here on Minus the Gym, you know that wasn't very easy for me to do. So in this video, I want to tell you why I did it, the method I used to wean off of caffeine without any withdrawal symptoms, and the pros and cons to being caffeine-free. How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan, and this is Minus the Gym, where we learn how to be fit and healthy at home. And if you've been following me here on my channel, you're probably well aware that I love my coffee. I mean, I've started off several videos pouring a mug of coffee and sipping it while I teach you guys about fitness. But recently I read a book that was pretty eye-opening for me. It taught me all the dangers of caffeine. And the book is right over there, so I'm going to go grab it. And this is the book. It's called Caffeine Blues by Stephen Chernisky. Now, I highly recommend this book for anyone who's interested in learning the truth about caffeine. And I say the truth because a lot of studies out there that have been done on caffeine have been funded by companies like Coca-Cola and Nestle and Folgers, big corporations that have an interest in making caffeine sound good for you. And there are health benefits to caffeine and beverages like coffee, for instance, but really the drug caffeine has a lot of hidden dangers that people aren't talking about, and this book highlights that. Okay, it goes beneath the surface and finds the truth about caffeine. So I'm the kind of person where I like to go against the grain. I don't like to just hear what the mainstream media is saying about nutrition or fitness or anything. I like to learn the truth. And in this case, I decided to learn about caffeine. And what I learned, I think the main takeaway from that book, I highly recommend you read it if you're interested, but the main takeaway from the book is that caffeine doesn't give us energy. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm low on energy, I feel tired, I need some coffee or I need some pop or something. But the truth is, caffeine doesn't give you energy, it gives you stress. So what do I mean about the dangers of caffeine? All right, well, a lot of the studies out there have made caffeine sound pretty innocent, but in reality, caffeine is a drug. All right, it's a poison that's produced by plants to keep insects and small animals from eating them. But we humans, we've learned that since we're larger than insects and small animals, we can tolerate a certain amount of caffeine, and it has an effect on us. And that effect is that it triggers our adrenal glands, two glands sitting on top of our kidneys and our lower back, to produce a couple hormones like epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay, these are stress hormones. So basically, caffeine doesn't give you energy like people think. They say, oh, I'm low on energy, I need some caffeine, I need some coffee or some pop. No, that's not how it works. Caffeine actually gives you stress by producing stress hormones. And those stress hormones produced by your adrenal glands are the same hormones that would be produced if, say, a tiger jumped out of the coat closet or you almost got hit by a bus, right? So although it's good to feel alert and awake in the morning, and it's nice to enjoy a cup of coffee, I started to question, do I really want to be doing that to my body? Do I really want to be taxing my adrenals day after day? So after reading that book and realizing that caffeine doesn't give me energy, it gives me stress, actually, and learning a lot of other really eye-opening things about caffeine, I decided to try going 1 month without any caffeine whatsoever. And here's the method I used to wean off of caffeine, in case you guys want to try it too. It's a really effective method, and if you use this method exactly as I described, you won't feel any withdrawal symptoms. I didn't have any headaches, I didn't have any trouble sleeping or anything like that, so check this out. I was a coffee drinker and not really a tea or energy drink drinker, so I'm going to show you guys how I quit coffee. And what I did is I got myself this kind of thing. This is a French press, and it's used to make coffee. And it's basically a glass cylinder with a filter attached to the lid. So you're going to go ahead and pull that lid off and add 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 teaspoons of coffee grounds. Then pour in hot water from your tea kettle, fill it up till the recommended amount for your French press, and then once it's full, you're going to give it a good stir with a spoon and let it sit for a few minutes. After you've given it some time for all the flavors to meld, you just want to go ahead and push that filter down through the coffee to push all the grounds to the bottom. And that's how you're going to make your coffee when you're weaning off of caffeine. And in order to wean off, I'm going to recommend you get something like this. This is Ticino brand Herbal Coffee. All right, so being herbal, it's completely caffeine free, meaning it's not decaf. It is naturally caffeine free. It's made with different spices like chicory and roasted barley. It's actually quite tasty. This is the Java flavor, but they also make a French roast that's really good. So you're going to buy this and you're going to start mixing it in with your regular coffee in the French press. So this table illustrates how in just 11 days you can completely wean off of caffeine. Remember in the example I showed you I put 5 teaspoons of regular coffee grounds into the French press, and there were 0 teaspoons of herbal coffee. That's day 1 at the top row of the table. Now if you look in day 2, you reduce regular coffee by half a teaspoon, doing 4.5 teaspoons total, but then you're substituting that half teaspoon with a half teaspoon of herbal coffee. And each day you're going to remove half a teaspoon of regular and add half a teaspoon of herbal until you get all the way down to day 11 where you're now completely on herbal coffee with 0 regular coffee. Trust me guys, this works. You have 0 withdrawal symptoms, and if you do experience any withdrawal symptoms, just pause on whatever day you're at. So for example, if you're on day 6 where you're at half and half, right, 2.5 teaspoons of regular and herbal, and you notice a headache or something, then just pause there at the half and half until the headaches start going away, and then keep on going to day 7, day 8, etc. once your withdrawal symptoms subside. Okay, so how about the pros and cons to being off of caffeine? All right, because I know a lot of people are probably watching this and thinking like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, why would you want to quit caffeine? Let me just explain that there are upsides and downsides to it. All right, first, the downsides. The first thing to know is that caffeine is an ergogenic aid, and that's just a fancy term for a drug that helps you with exercise, helps you feel more alert, your heart rate is up, and it kind of numbs the discomfort of the exercise. So the first downside of being off caffeine is that my workouts aren't quite as good. All right, I still get in good workouts, trust me, but it's just not the same without caffeine. The second downside to being off of caffeine is the social factor. Okay, when you're avoiding caffeine entirely and then your friends want to go out for coffee, or they're serving coffee at brunch or with dessert at a birthday party, you're tempted by it, everybody else is partaking, but you're declining. So it's just that social factor. I mean, it's not a big deal, but you kind of miss it at those times. And for a third downside to being caffeine free, I really do feel like that my brain still isn't operating as fast as when I was caffeinated. Okay, I don't know if it'll ever be the same, if it just needs more time or what. That is definitely something I've noticed, and maybe, I don't know, maybe one day it'll be the same, but as of right now, I still don't feel 100% as sharp as when I was caffeinated. Okay, now for all the upsides to quitting caffeine. And the first number one thing that I noticed was better sleep. Holy cow, night and day difference. But it doesn't happen overnight, okay, no pun intended. It's like my first day without any caffeine, I was just like, okay, I felt a little groggy maybe, but not so bad. But I slept wonderfully compared to previous nights. And then each night that I slept caffeine-free, it's like I got a little more rest, a little more restful sleep. And it just keeps getting better. So definitely, if you're having trouble sleeping, consider quitting caffeine, because man, you don't realize it, but it's hampering your sleep quality. Reason number 2 why quitting caffeine is a good thing is because I've noticed my skin is looking and feeling more hydrated. And the reason for that is caffeine is a diuretic. And diuretics make you urinate more and kind of sap your body of hydration. So when you're off of caffeine, that's just one less thing in your body removing the water, so you slowly start to look and feel more hydrated, and it shows in your skin. Another reason why it's good to be caffeine free is I noticed my mood is like level throughout the day. Whereas when I was on caffeine, I'd wake up and I'd feel really groggy and cranky until I had that first cup of coffee. And then after the first cup, I felt really happy and blissful. It was almost like bipolar disorder. It's like I was really cranky and then really happy. And then gradually I'd get crankier throughout the day as the caffeine got out of my system until the next morning when I was super cranky and needed caffeine again. So a huge upside to being caffeine free is that you just wake up feeling happy and good. You're not blissful necessarily, but you are in a good mood, and it stays level like that throughout the entire day. A fourth thing I noticed from being caffeine free is that my anxiety is gone. And the weird thing about my anxiety from caffeine is that it only happened in the afternoons. It turns out it was when my body was really detoxing and getting rid of all the caffeine from the morning, that's when I started to feel anxious. And it wasn't, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like my throat would get tight when I was talking to audiences, like if I had big meetings at work and stuff. I just felt really, really timid and anxious at times. But I don't have that problem. Being off of caffeine, I'm much more comfortable going into these meetings and talking to people. So if you're noticing that you have anxiety and you're wondering what might be causing it, take a look at your caffeine intake, because not everyone is affected by caffeine the same way, but some people, like myself, do experience anxiety when they're withdrawing from the caffeine every day. Like if you drink it in the morning, you'll probably notice the symptoms more in the afternoon as your body starts detoxifying the caffeine. And one more really weird and interesting benefit to being off of caffeine is that I was getting cold hands and feet, or especially my fingers. My fingers would always be cold no matter what. And I didn't know it was caffeine causing that until I read the book, Caffeine Blues, and it mentioned that some people, but not a lot of people, experience what's called vasoconstriction. It's the constriction of the blood vessels in the extremities. And caffeine can cause that for some people, and it was happening to me, because after just about a week or so, maybe a week and a half, off of caffeine, I noticed it was going away. And by the end of the month, I felt normal again. I don't have the cold hands and feet. So if you're experiencing that as well, it could be your caffeine intake. Alright, I could probably keep going on and on about the benefits to being off of caffeine, but I don't want this video to be too long. And you're probably wondering, okay, so what's your take here? Are you going to stay off of caffeine, or are you going to go back onto it? So here's the thing. I really love coffee. I love the taste, and I've been drinking the herbal teas, like the herbal coffee that I showed you earlier in this video, and I really like the taste of that. I also like the fact that it's alkaline, and you don't really realize it while you're switching from caffeine to the herbal coffee, but it's more gentle on your system, especially your mouth. And I actually, after the challenge was done, after the month was over, I tried going back to normal, regular coffee that my wife makes, and I couldn't even drink a full cup of it. It was just too acidic. It was just too, I just didn't like it. So I'm back on the herbal coffee, and when I need a jolt, if I want the stress hormones from caffeine, I just add a splash of regular coffee to my herbal coffee. And I hardly even notice the acidity, and it gives me a little jolt. I'm not sure how much caffeine, but just enough to wake me up a little bit. So I'm no longer 100% caffeine free, but I'm definitely paying a lot more attention to my caffeine intake. And it seems like so many people in my life, including my wife, who drink caffeine don't have any of the symptoms and side effects that I was experiencing. So if you'd be so kind, let me know in the comments below, are any of you guys experiencing weird things that you think might be associated with your caffeine intake, and have you considered quitting? Let's talk about it in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys, and I think this is a good topic to talk about. And in case you're new to my channel, this is Minus the Gym. It's all about working out at home to keep fit and how to eat healthy. So if that's up your alley, make sure you subscribe, buttons down below, and tap that bell icon too. That'll notify you every time I upload. And now I'm gonna go make some more herbal tea and sip on that while I edit this video. All right? So I'll see you in the next one.